Aloha, I'm Paige, and today I'm going to be covering Hexagenia limbata, more commonly known as the giant mayfly. Just a little overview, we're going to be covering their general information regarding their taxonomy, physical characteristics, and defining features, as well as the life history and biology, so that will cover their incomplete metamorphosis, distribution, and habitat. We'll also take a look at their ecological role, so predation, as well as their relevance, their ecosystem services, and their great habitat indicators, as well as often seen as a pest. So just to begin with their taxonomy, they are in the order Ephemeroptera, in the family of Ephemeraudae, in the genus of Hexagenia, and in the species of Hexagenia limbata. The body composition of the adult large mayfly can be measured up to 3 centimeters, not including the 2 cerci, which can also grow up to be 3 centimeters. The wings are paleoptera and held directly upright above the body, even at rest. This species has large compound eyes, with a sexual dimorphism of male having larger eyes to better spot female for mating. Each leg is ended with 1 tarsal claw, and male hind legs are slightly larger to better handle females in copulation. As for mouthparts, Hexagenia limbata have none that are functional. Ephemeroptera are an extremely unique order, unlike any other insect. Originating more than 300 million years ago, these species are an ancient lineage of aquatic insects. Between different species, there's not much variation in body composition. However, the number of their cerci and their appearance of the mouthparts can fluctuate. Nymph stages are also highly variable, dependent on their habitats. The wings are membranous and with many veins pumping in a geometric square pattern, and have sclerotized dark border on the hind wings. You can see that here in the photo. A defining feature of Hexagenia limbata specifically is the lack of their functional mouthparts that are lost in the incomplete metamorphosis. Moving along, Ephemeroptera are hemimetabolous as they undergo incomplete metamorphosis. Mayflies undergo 4 separate life stages: the egg, nymph, subamigo, and imigo. The subamigo stage is unique just to this family, as it is a pre-adult stage that looks similar to the amigo but is not sexually mature. Eggs are laid on top of the water and float down to the substrate. They are roughly textured and the size of 0.16 to 0.19 by 0.28 to 0.32 millimeters. Submersed eggs sit through the winter and nymphs hatch in the spring. After hatching, the naiads burrow in the sandy sediments of flowing water to construct U-shaped tunnels with 2 openings in the water. Here, they filter out and feed on organic material which is suspended in the water. They extract oxygen from the fresh water as it passes over their gills. The nymph bodies grow to body lengths of 2.5 centimeters for males and 0.3 centimeters for females, or 3 centimeters for females. Their bodies have dark, prominent wing pads with gills on the sides of the abdomen that orient dorsally. Behind the body are 3 cerci, and eventually 1 will be lost in the final molt. Chewing mouthparts can also be seen as their mandibles curve upward and are tusk-like for chewing. Before they molt into the subamigo stage, the guts empty out and the big gut section fills with air. This forces the insects to float to the surface, even as some try to fight it. At the surface, the cuticle splits open on the thorax and the wings come out. At this time, the subamigo is too weak to fly away, so it waits on the surface. This phenomenon is actually what intrigued me about mayflies. One summer, I was fishing and I saw tons of mayfly exoskeletons on the water, and 2 days later, they were swarming everywhere. The subamigo stage closely resembles the adult, but it can be distinguished by a few differences. The wings and bodies are covered in microtichera, or small hairs. They have shorter legs and cerci compared to the reproductive adults. And after they hatch, they fly to the cover of the shoreline vegetation where they molt the following day. The final molt of the subamigo allows the legs and cerci of the insect to have a final chance to grow before they become the amigo. The longer cerci allow for better stability in flight. Once the mayfly reaches full sexual maturity, it will no longer have mouthparts, so it cannot feed and will only live 1 to 2 days after reproducing. Speaking of reproduction, Hexagenia limbata and every other mayfly species perform swarming aerial aggregation to find their mate. Males fly higher in the swarm and drop down onto females, while other males rest upon the subamigo females while waiting for them to sexually mature. After mating for a few seconds, females fly to the water and disperse her eggs on the surface. The life cycle of the species is considered univoltine, as they mate and hatch once a year. Ephemeroptera are found globally near bodies of clean, fresh water, while Hexagenia limbata, the giant mayfly, are found in North America, excluding New Mexico and Arizona. They range through Canada and down to the Mexican states of Jalisco, Nuevo Leon, San Luis Potosi, and Tabasco. Giant mayfly nymphs are most commonly found in lakes and slow streams with sandy or muddy substrate. After reaching sexual maturity, they do not stray far from these areas and often die near or on the waters that they were born. As for the vulnerabilities of eggs and naiads, Hexagenia limbata are prey through and through, mostly filter feeding on detritus and losing their mouthpart function in maturity limits them to any skill in predation. Eggs are prey to snails and caddisfly larvae, especially as they float down the substrate after being laid. Nymphs are vulnerable to dragonfly larvae and freshwater fish species. Though nymphs burrow deep into the sediment, they still fall prey to the dragonfly larvae. Once fully mature, the giant mayflies still face vulnerabilities as aggregations are a host for many predators like tree swallows, other birds, and even dragonflies. Falling from swarms onto the water allows fish to prey on them as well. This ecological function has greatly influenced the sport of fly fishing. While the lifespan of mayflies is incredibly short, they are vital to the ecosystem in the services that they provide. Due to the population abundance, sensitivities, and predictable responses to changes in environmental conditions, the ability to easily sample and identify meaningful taxonomic resolutions, and evidence of bioaccumulative chemicals which allow for tracing the pathways of toxins in the environment makes mayflies a great habitat indicator. Species such as Hexagenia limbata are a great tool for scientists to assess the health of aquatic freshwater systems. Another ecosystem service they perform is habitat maintenance. Bioturbidation and bioirrigation occurs when nymphs rework the sediments in freshwater systems by flushing water through their burrows and filter feeding. Additionally, mayfly nymphs are a host for commensal bryozoans, protozoans, and chiromoid midges, so their existence is a habitat in of itself. Additionally, nutrient cycling is a major role for these insects. Large populations make up a majority of biomass in freshwater systems, so after maturing, the biomass is introduced into terrestrial environments. Imago mayflies are consumed by land-dwelling species such as birds, bats, spiders, and lizards, which brings nutrients from aquatic ecosystems to the terrestrial. With that being said, unfortunately, mayflies are a potential biotransporter of waterborne contaminants into the terrestrial ecosystems. As for culture, across the globe, mayflies have significant impacts on culture. The Hexagenia limbata have predominantly influenced fly fishing culture, especially here in America. Fly fishermen intricately recreate different life stages of the insect and use special tools and techniques to catch fish. Here's actually a photo of me fly fishing on a river in Tennessee. And what's really interesting is fly fishermen call subamigo duns and the fully sexually mature stage spinners. And here's a really good example of how they recreate the mayfly. Mayflies are considered a short-lived pest. In swarming season, mayflies hatch and begin to aggregate in their swarms, so they become pests to humans, though they do not pose any harm, but they're mostly a nuisance or inconvenience. Even snowplows have been used to scrape and remove dead mayflies from the roads. With that being said, I want to thank you for listening to my video and watching my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks!